Emery Songer here at the Mahaska Zone Network Studios, joined by Penn University head football coach Todd Hafner. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
Okay, football season is over for Penn University, 7-4, which is a monumental accomplishment considering the fact that you guys started 0-3. Personally, now that the season's over, you had a little bit of time, a week to reflect on what was just, we didn't know what to expect, and it turns out you guys had one heck of a season, had a chance to, have an outright championship in the North Division. You still can call yourself conference champions in the North Division. What are your thoughts just on this season as a whole?
Well, I think, the way everything started and the way our kids hung together, we couldn't be more proud of what they did. I was talking with some of the coaches this morning, and it's one of those things that it seems like we worked harder this year to get 7 wins than we have in a long time. But it was so worth it because our kids were working harder than us. And so, you look in the locker room, and we return a lot of players for next year. So the future is very bright. But looking back, we're very proud of our kids and very proud of their effort, and we're very proud of what happened.
7-4, obviously, a lot of people just say that's just another season for Penn, but I don't think so. I think when you start 0-3, especially with 2 heartbreaking 1-point losses, including to a team that's in the playoffs in Missouri Valley, to bounce back and win 7 games in a row after that, it talks about the work that you guys put in and the work your kids did. I kind of compared this year's football team to the Dirty Nine basketball team of a few years ago, went to the 2014 NAIA National Tournament, had no business being there, had no business being in this spot. Do you kind of view it as that, kind of a hodgepodge? I don't think by any means this was ever going to be the most talented group you've ever had, but at times it just felt like they were getting it done in that 7-game winning streak.
Well, I think, hodgepodge, I don't know if we want to go there, but, we have very good players. And the thing about this year's team that was so different was how young they were. And so we knew that we were talented, but we didn't know how they were going to react in different situations. And, after the first 3 games, I think more than anything, they'd basically seen everything at that point. And so once they saw everything, they were talented enough to be able to make adjustments and stuff on the fly. And the way that our team is set up, if we can make adjustments and do things without having to go here and there to try and do it, and they can do it on their own, things are going to work themselves out. So, again, I go back to how hard these kids worked and how much time they put in preparing, each week on their own. And I think that had a lot to do with our success. But I think, once the youngness of our kids wore off and we were able to get some of that, close game experience and play one of the best teams in the country in Baker to see, what we really needed to do to get better. Once those things happened, I think everything started clicking.
It did start clicking. You had a couple of different guys that you probably didn't expect to be your quarterback this season. Eric Cooper and Van Parker were the 2 guys that led you at quarterback, almost splitting time after Cooper got injured. Parker came on and really gave you a little boost in terms of his ability to run the football. But your defense also kept you in a lot of ball games and gave the offense, even though it would struggle sometimes, a chance to win games. The offense did its job, and you guys pulled out wins against Benedictine. You pulled out a win against Graceland late in the season when you needed to have those wins. You were finding ways to get it done. Now, one of the things that you talk about youth, your entire offensive line was underclassmen this year, and that's coming on the heels of one of the best offensive lines in Penn history, who were all seniors last year. Let's take us through the optimism you have. You had a first-year offensive coordinator. You didn't know a lot about the skill positions and what you were going to get from them, but knowing how the offensive line was performing late in the season as a complete group of underclassmen, how does that kind of feel as a coaching staff knowing that you have that cornerstone to build on?
Well, it feels as good as it can, honestly, because everybody knows with what we do, that's where it starts. And I think that's why some of the struggles early, obviously, we just talked about that. But knowing that those kids now have all the experience they need moving forward, now all they have to do is get stronger in the weight room. They have to continue to get bigger. We played some kids this year that were a little bit undersized and things like that. But knowing that those kids are there is only going to fuel, our offensive production in the future, because, it all starts there. We're going to have Eric's coming back. We'll add probably one or two in recruiting just to try and make sure we keep up with the athleticism at that position. And again, with that crew coming back and the kids that are behind them coming back, we feel really good about where our offense is going to go for the next couple of years.
Defense has the same story. Got some local kids that have been, Mason Wissey had an outstanding year at linebacker, but you're going to need to plug some holes. Antonio Brown, Hunter Berry, guys that have been big playmakers for you the last couple of years that, graduation comes for everybody eventually, and they're not going to be there next year. But the defensively, it feels like the system you have now with Coach Norberg and just the culture of defensive football. Nobody runs the football very well against William Penn University. That's just a fact. Take us through what you thought about the defense and what you can build on from this year into next year.
Well, I think obviously our defense is only continuing to get better. Now losing Hunter and losing Antonio, those are big holes to fill. You're talking about two all-conference players at two key positions in our defense. And so, this was Coach Norberg's second year calling the defense. This was our third year in this defense. And so I think the maturity of our players, just knowing where to go, what to do, what checks to make, where to position themselves to be in the right spot, and it's our goal every week to stop the run. And if we can stop the run and make teams throw the football, we're going to be a lot better off. And we were able to do that this year. Again, going back to Hunter, he makes such a difference because he's so disruptive inside, and it frees up the linebackers and things like that. We have players that played this year, fortunately for us, at that position that we feel good about, and we have some young kids coming up that are bigger and getting bigger and stronger, and so will you replace those guys? Yeah, hard, but we'll be able to put guys in there that we feel are going to be capable of doing the job, and we only expect better things for years to come from our defense.
All right, so now you don't get an offseason as a coach. Now you're trying to get some kids to wear that navy and gold, not only just next year but beyond that. Take us through what the strategy is for recruiting. I know you're not going to be wasting any time here.
No, we're already out and about. We've got coaches that have been on the road already. We're looking, we're going to look for a quarterback, an athletic quarterback that, fits our scheme. We're going to continue to try and, fill holes. We need to find a difference maker at receiver. There are some local kids right now that we're going to be recruiting very actively, and we already have been, that we think can come in and help us. And we've been very fortunate with our local players. We try and get the best players available in the local area, and we've been able to do that for the last few years that have really helped us win games. You mentioned Mason Wissey and Sage Ersman and some of those kids, and if you go back even further, you talk about Ryan Van Dalen and Stephen Dolly and all those kids that were from this area that have come to Penn to help make a difference. And we'll continue to recruit the area in Iowa very actively. And so it's just one of those things that, we don't recruit a lot of junior college players. We recruit some to fill holes, but we're going to go recruit high school players, try and develop them in our system. And, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to do that over the last few years.
Coach Hafner, it's fun. Obviously, always following William Penn football. This season, no exception. Congrats on one heck of a season, and
thank you.
Good luck in the recruiting.
Thank you. And again, I say this all the time, but thank you guys for what you do to promote not just William Penn football, but William Penn athletics and Oskaloosa High School athletics. And you guys do an amazing job. So thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you, Coach. Of course, one thing that I do want to mention is the fact that you can check out our Facebook page on the Mahaska Zone Network, KBOE 104.9 FM. You can also log on to our websites, kboeradio.com or radiokmzn.com, for all sorts of William Penn news, all sorts of coverage for high schools around the Oskaloosa area, and we'll continue to have that as well as on our YouTube channel, MZN. For everyone at the Mahaska Zone Network and Coach Todd Hafner, I'm Emery Songer.